In just 43 seconds, one of Britain's most beloved morning television hosts would completely lose her composure, launching into a vicious personal attack that would see comedy legend Ricky Gervais storm off her set in disgust. What started as light banter about his latest Netflix special descended into a brutal character assassination that left viewers stunned and the studio in chaos. The morning had begun like any other on the Lorraine Kelly show, the familiar Scottish lilt-filled living rooms across the UK, as Lorraine welcomed viewers with her trademark warmth. But beneath that practiced smile, tension was already brewing. Word had reached the production team that Gervais had been making pointed comments about daytime television in recent interviews, specifically targeting shows that he claimed pander to the lowest common denominator while pretending to care about serious issues. As Gervais settled into the powder blue sofa opposite Lorraine, his trademark smirk already hinting at trouble ahead, the host's jaw was noticeably tighter than usual. The comedian wore his standard black shirt and jeans combination, looking entirely too comfortable for someone about to walk into what would become a verbal minefield. "So, Ricky," Lorraine began, her voice carrying just a hint of steel beneath the sweetness, "you've been quite vocal lately about television standards, haven't you? Particularly morning television." She leaned forward slightly, her eyes never leaving his face. "Some might say you've been rather critical of certain formats." Gervais chuckled, completely unfazed by the loaded question. "Well, Lorraine, I think people deserve better than being spoon-fed manufactured emotion at 9 in the morning. I mean, when did we decide that celebrity cooking segments and manufactured controversies counted as journalism?" The temperature in the studio seemed to drop several degrees. Lorraine's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second before snapping back into place, but viewers watching closely could see her knuckles whitening as she gripped her cards. "That's quite an accusation, Ricky," she replied, her Scottish accent becoming more pronounced as it always did when she was irritated. "Some of us have been working in television for decades, building trust with our audiences, covering real stories that matter to real people." "Oh, absolutely," Gervais nodded with mock sincerity, like yesterday's groundbreaking investigation into whether celebrities prefer tea or coffee. Pulitzer-worthy stuff, really. The studio audience shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't the playful banter they'd expected. Behind the cameras, producers exchanged worried glances as they watched their host's composure beginning to crack. Lorraine's voice took on a sharper edge. "You know, Ricky, it's easy to sit in your ivory tower and criticize people who are actually trying to bring a bit of joy and information into people's lives. Not everyone can afford Netflix subscriptions or fancy comedy club tickets. Right? Because making fun of disabled people's mobility scooters really brightens everyone's day." Gervais shot back, referencing a segment that had aired the previous week. "Very uplifting stuff." The color drained from Lorraine's face. That segment had already attracted complaints to Ofcom, and bringing it up on live television was like lighting a fuse. Her hands trembled slightly as she set down her cards with deliberate precision. "That was taken completely out of context," she said through gritted teeth. "We were highlighting the challenges faced by people with mobility issues, showing how they overcome by getting the presenter to ride around on one while making jokes about speed limits," Gervais interrupted, his voice rising. "Come on, Lorraine. Even you can't polish that turd." The studio fell silent, except for the hum of cameras still rolling. Lorraine's face had gone from pale to flushed red in a matter of seconds. She was gripping the edge of her desk so hard that her rings were clicking against the wood. "How dare you?" she hissed, leaning forward aggressively. "How dare you come onto my show, into my house, and attack me and my team? We've been bringing quality programming to British families for years, while you've been making millions telling jokes about dead celebrities and refugees." Gervais raised an eyebrow. "Quality programming? Is that what we're calling it now? Because last I checked, having a phone-in about whether people should put pineapple on pizza doesn't exactly constitute hard-hitting journalism. At least we don't hide behind edgy humor to mask the fact that we've got nothing meaningful to say." Lorraine snapped back, her professional mask finally slipping completely. "Some of us actually care about our audience instead of just shocking them for shock's sake." The comedian's expression hardened. This had crossed from professional criticism into personal attack territory, and everyone in the studio could feel the shift. The cameramen continued filming, knowing they were capturing television gold, while the floor manager frantically gestured to his headset, clearly receiving urgent instructions from the control room. Meaningful? You want to talk about meaningful? Gervais's voice had dropped to a dangerous whisper that somehow carried more menace than shouting. Yesterday you spent 15 minutes discussing a soap opera storyline as if it were breaking news from Ukraine. The day before, you had a segment about a celebrity's new haircut that lasted longer than your coverage of the homeless crisis. Lorraine was now visibly shaking, her carefully constructed television persona completely abandoned. You sanctimonious bastard, she spat, the profanity shocking everyone in the studio. Sitting there in your designer clothes, judging people who actually work for a living, instead of just recycling the same tired material about celebrities and religion. The gloves were officially off, and what happened next would make television history for all the wrong reasons. Gervais sat back in his chair, a cold smile spreading across his face as he processed what he'd just heard, the profanity hanging in the air like smoke from a fired gun. Did you just call me a sanctimonious bastard on live television, Lorraine? On your family-friendly morning show? His voice was deadly calm, the kind of quiet that preceded a tornado. Lorraine realized her mistake immediately, but it was too late to take it back. The damage was done, broadcast live to millions of homes across Britain. Her eyes darted to the cameras, then back to Gervais, panic creeping into her features. That was, she stammered, trying to regain some semblance of control. No, don't backtrack now, Gervais interrupted, his voice gaining momentum. You've shown your true colors. This is what happens when someone challenges the sacred morning television formula, isn't it? The mask slips and we see what's really underneath all that manufactured warmth. The studio audience was completely silent now, watching this car crash unfold in real time. Several people had their phones out, undoubtedly recording what would soon become viral footage. The floor manager was making increasingly frantic hand signals, but neither presenter was paying any attention to the chaos erupting around them. You want to talk about my material being tired? Gervais continued, leaning forward now, his voice rising. Let's talk about your format. Every single day, the same bloody thing. Fake concern about celebrities' mental health while simultaneously feeding the machine that destroys them, pretending to care about social issues while selling diet pills during the commercial breaks. Lorraine's face was now a deep shade of crimson. That's enough, she said, her voice shaking with rage. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know the first thing about the responsibility we have to our viewers, the research that goes into every segment, the care we take. Care? Gervais barked out a harsh laugh. You had a woman on here last month crying about losing her house, and your response was to give her a bloody makeover and pretend that solved her problems. That's not care. That's exploitation dressed up as entertainment. The accusation hit home like a physical blow. Lorraine's mouth opened and closed silently for a moment before she found her voice again. How dare you twist that story? We helped that woman. We gave her hope when she had none. We connected her with resources. You gave her 15 minutes of fame and sent her back to the same shitty situation with better lipstick. Gervais shot back ruthlessly. And you felt good about yourselves while doing it. That's the problem with people like you, Lorraine. You think a Band-Aid is surgery. Behind the scenes, the control room was in absolute chaos. The director was screaming into his headset about cutting to commercials, but the live feed was already being shared across social media platforms faster than they could contain it. This wasn't just a heated interview anymore. It was a public execution of morning television's sacred cow. Lorraine stood up abruptly, her chair rolling backward with the force. People like me? She repeated, her voice getting higher and more strained. People like me have been working in this industry since before you were making jokes about your pets dying for cheap laughs. We've been there for our audience through real tragedies, real celebrations, real life. Real life? Gervais was on his feet now too, matching her energy. You wouldn't recognize real life if it bit you on your spray-tanned arse. You live in a bubble of celebrity gossip and manufactured drama. When's the last time you had a conversation with someone who wasn't trying to sell something or promote something? The personal nature of the attack seemed to break something inside Lorraine. Her professional composure, built over decades of live television, completely crumbled. You're one to talk about selling things, she screamed. her Scottish accent now so thick that some viewers would later need subtitles. Your entire career is built on being deliberately offensive and then crying about cancel culture when people call you out on it. At least, I'm honest about what I am, Gervais roared back. I don't pretend to be Britain's sweetheart while stabbing people in the back the moment the cameras stop rolling. Everyone in this industry knows what you're really like, Lorraine. The tantrums, the demands, the way you treat your staff like servants. The color drained from Lorraine's face again. These were accusations that could destroy careers. Allegations about behind-the-scenes behavior that the public rarely got to hear about. That's libel, she whispered. But her voice carried no conviction. Is it? Gervais pressed, sensing weakness. Ask your makeup artist about the cup of coffee you threw at her last month. Ask your researchers about the screaming matches in the green room. Ask your producers about the celebrities who refused to come back because of how you treated them when they wouldn't play along with your scripted spontaneity. Lorraine was visibly shaking now. Whether from rage or fear, it was impossible to tell. The studio had gone from uncomfortable to toxic in a matter of minutes. Crew members were backing away from the set, unsure whether to intervene or let this disaster play out to its inevitable conclusion. You're finished, she hissed at Gervais, pointing a trembling finger at him. I'll make sure you never work on British television again. I'll call everyone I know, every producer, every executive. You've made the biggest mistake of your career coming after me. Gervais threw back his head and laughed, a sound that was genuinely terrifying in its complete lack of humor. Threats now? Really? This is your professional response to criticism? This is the woman who's been lecturing me about responsibility and care? The laughter seemed to push Lorraine over an edge she didn't even know existed. Her voice, when it came, was barely recognizable, as the warm, maternal tone millions of viewers associated with their morning routine. Get out, she shrieked. Get the fuck out of my studio right now. The second F-bomb in less than 10 minutes on live morning television. Social media was already exploding with clips and commentary. This wasn't just a confrontation anymore, it was the complete destruction of one of British television's most carefully constructed personas, happening in real time, for everyone to see. But Gervais wasn't finished yet, and what he said next would ensure this moment lived in television infamy forever. Gervais stepped closer to Lorraine's desk, his voice dropping to that dangerous whisper again. You know what the real tragedy is here, Lorraine. You actually had talent once. I remember watching you on GMTV 20 years ago. You were sharp, you were funny, you asked real questions, but somewhere along the way, you sold your soul for ratings and a steady paycheck. The words hit Lorraine like a physical blow. Her hands gripped the edge of her desk as tears of rage began forming in her eyes. Don't you dare, she whispered back. Don't you dare pretend you know my journey or what I've sacrificed to get here. Sacrificed? Gervais's voice was now loud enough for the entire studio to hear every word. The only thing you've sacrificed is your integrity. And you know what the worst part is? You're not even good at being fake. Your audience can sense it. That's why your ratings have been sliding for the past 3 years. The mention of ratings was like throwing gasoline on an already raging fire. Lorraine's professional pride, already hanging by a thread, snapped completely. My ratings are fine, she screamed. This show has been a cornerstone of British television for over a decade. I've interviewed prime ministers. I've covered royal weddings. You've become a parody of yourself, Gervais interrupted ruthlessly. A walking, talking morning television cliché. Do you even remember the last time you had an original thought that wasn't fed to you by your producers? The studio audience was now openly gasping at the brutality of the exchange. This had gone far beyond television drama into something genuinely uncomfortable to watch. Several people had started to leave their seats, unable to stomach the complete character assassination taking place before their eyes. Lorraine was openly crying now, mascara streaming down her cheeks in black rivers. You're a monster, she sobbed. A cruel, heartless monster who destroys people for entertainment. No wonder your personal life is such a mess. No wonder people can't stand to be around you. The personal attack seemed to energize Gervais rather than wound him. There it is, he said with genuine satisfaction. The real Lorraine Kelly, everyone. When she can't win an argument with facts or wit, she goes straight for the jugular. This is who's been pretending to care about your problems every morning for the past 15 years. Behind the cameras, Security personnel were finally moving into position, clearly receiving urgent instructions from the control room. The legal implications of what was being broadcast live were already causing panic among the network executives watching from their offices. "Get him out!" Lorraine screamed at the security guards, pointing a shaking finger at Gervais. "Get this piece of shit out of my studio before I do something I'll regret." But Gervais held up a hand to the approaching security, his voice cutting through the chaos with crystal clarity. "No need for the muscle, Lorraine. I wouldn't want to stay in this temple of mediocrity a second longer than necessary." He straightened his shirt and looked directly into the main camera. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when someone challenges the comfortable lies you're fed every morning. This is the real face behind the fake concern and manufactured warmth." Lorraine was hyperventilating now, her breathing coming in short, sharp gasps. "Turn the cameras off," she pleaded with her crew. "Please, just turn them off." "Oh no," Gervais said with a cold smile. "You wanted to play this game on live television, so let's finish it on live television." He turned back to the camera, his voice becoming almost conversational. "You deserve better than this, Britain. You deserve presenters who respect your intelligence, who don't treat you like children who need to be placated with celebrity gossip and fake positivity." The director in the control room was screaming instructions, but it was too late. The damage was done, the moment was captured, and millions of viewers were witnessing the complete implosion of one of their most trusted morning personalities. Lorraine made one final attempt to salvage something from the wreckage. "You'll pay for this," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the studio noise. "I'll sue you for defamation, for harassment, for destroying my reputation." Gervais paused at the edge of the set, turning back one final time. "Your reputation destroyed itself, Lorraine. I just held up a mirror." He looked around the studio, at the shocked crew, the fleeing audience members, the chaos he'd created. "And you know what? I don't regret a single word of it. Sometimes the truth needs to be brutal to be heard." With that, he walked off the set, leaving Lorraine standing alone among the wreckage of her carefully constructed world. The cameras continued rolling as she collapsed into her chair, her sobs now the only sound in the devastated studio. Security moved to escort the remaining audience members out as crews scrambled to cut the live feed. But it was far too late. The damage was complete, irreversible, and thoroughly documented. In the space of less than 20 minutes, one of British morning television's most enduring figures had been completely and utterly destroyed, not by scandal or controversy, but by the simple application of unvarnished truth delivered with surgical precision. As Gervais disappeared through the studio doors, he could hear Lorraine's voice one final time, broken and desperate. "This isn't over. This can't be how it ends." But they both knew it was exactly how it ended. The show would go to an emergency commercial break, then cut to pre-recorded segments for the rest of the morning. Lorraine would be escorted to her dressing room by concerned producers, while legal teams scrambled to assess the fallout. The clips would be trending on every social media platform within hours, analyzed and dissected by media commentators across the globe. The comfortable, safe world of morning television had been shattered in real time, and everyone who witnessed it knew they had seen something that would be talked about for years to come. Not as entertainment, but as a cautionary tale about what happens when artificial personas meet inconvenient truths.